Welcome to the Transformation Talks podcast, in-depth conversations on transformation with Rajiv Dhingra, founder and CEO of RDNX Network.
Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of the Transformation Talks podcast. Today we have an exciting guest with us, someone who's been in the retail space for a couple of decades. We have with us Mr. Piyush Chauhan, who is a digital evangelist with a passion for transforming businesses with the use of technology. He has expertise in digital transformation for large multinational setups, currently the CIO leading the digital strategy and technology transformation for the Lulu Group International, which is an Emirati multinational conglomerate company that operates a chain of hypermarkets and retail companies headquartered in Abu Dhabi. With over 2 decades of experience working with global consumer and retail companies, he has an excellent track record of delivering results and creating value across organizations. His vision is creating innovation-focused digital strategies to maximize today's opportunities and prepare organizations for future disruptions. His passion for working with startups and innovation-led companies has given him the edge to create digital assets for organizations with the use of the latest technologies like analytics, cloud, and artificial intelligence. He has been a widely recognized leader in digital transformation and has been a much wanted speaker at over 100 global events. He's an avid writer and his thought leadership is published in multiple magazines and portals. Please give a big warm welcome to Piyush Chauhan. Piyush, welcome to Transformation Talks.
Thank you, Rajiv. It's great to talk to you today.
Great, Piyush. Piyush, you've been in the retail space for decades. Walmart, Arvind, Lifestyle, and now the Lulu Group. 2020 has not been a kind year to retail space, one may say. As someone who sits on the the CIO chair, a chair which talks about digital transformation, what was your view about the use and role of technology prior to the pandemic, and how has it changed post the pandemic? It'll be very interesting to get into the mind of a CIO leading a retail company and understand how have you changed your view and how has things around you changed over the last 12 to 24 months, so as to say.
Sure, and I think that's interesting, and since it is already almost a year, not almost a year, it's more than a year now that we have been hit with this pandemic of a scale that maybe this generation has never seen. And from a retail context, if you ask me honestly, what has changed? The big thing which has changed for everyone is the pace of change. Yeah, the only thing which has changed is the pace of change, which means that you are bound to change much faster than what we were doing pre-pandemic times. And what I mean by that is digital transformation, or obviously digital at the core of the business, was being talked about for a very long time. Every business had to put digital as a center point and pivot itself towards identifying the customer, towards doing business in the supply chain, and so on and so forth. So all the parts of your retail supply chain had to be pivoted around digital. Now, pre-pandemic, things were slow. Yeah, people had assumed that the pace of change would have been maybe 3-year programs, 5-year programs, and most of the CEOs and CIOs were working towards 3 to 5-year programs. And come COVID, as soon as this hit, people were kind of grappling to look at how can we reinvent a lot of things that are already happening. One big factor obviously was the sudden surge in the digital commerce space. Now, it's not that digital commerce space got invented during this time, but the adoption of digital commerce was at such a fast pace, and the scale was so big that I would say, honestly, in the beginning, in the March-April timeframe, almost all the retailers, be it digital native retailers or be it physical retailers, all had some kind of problems or the other. Either some people had stockouts, some people didn't have the delivery vans. Some people had a lot of issues in their stores and so on and so forth. So the different retailers face different type of problem, but nobody was unaffected. There was nobody who said I'm unaffected because of this. And hence, what it brings to the forefront is, how are we structuring organizations? Are we structuring organizations which are agile, which are more digital, which are more nimble in their processes, or are we building in structures which are very rigid? And to me, the winners in the last 1 year are the organizations which are agile, which are nimble, which are kind of innovative, as I call it, are the ones who are able to adapt things much faster and are able to differentiate themselves from the ones who were not able to. And hence, as we see, at least in the western part of the world, the bankruptcies in the retail sector have accelerated. The shutdowns are there, store closings are there, more layoffs are seen, whereas there is a clear sign of consolidation amongst a few set of companies which are showing that digital and agile are the new ways of working for you to survive in this era.
So I agree with you, Piyush, and agility has always been sort of a word that corporates have talked about. Of course, nobody could have predicted the size, scale, and speed at which this pandemic hit in the last 12 months. Personally, what have been your key learnings and takeaways as someone who looks at, who for whom the core role is digital strategy and transformation? What have been your learnings seeing your organization and organizations around you, your colleagues in different transformation roles, pivoting and grappling? How do you look at the last 12 months? How have they been different to the last maybe 20 years of your career, and with a large part of that career being in the tech space, advising companies on this agility and transformation?
Yeah, and obviously these terms are not new. As you rightly said, people were talking about agility for quite some time, but I think it was more a lip service which was being given. Point number one. Point number two is looking at what has happened in the last 1 year. Customer centricity has become a key theme, or CX, people call it customer experience, customer centricity, whatever term you want to call for. I think these are the two elements which were given more a lip service. And what I mean by that is, when you are talking about being an agile organizations, if you still have those siloed powerhouses, so for example, there is a CMO who runs the entire ad budget for the company and is measured based on XYZ parameters, whereas the supply chain is measured based on how much of goods are you transferring, you are no longer an agile organization. And that is what I think people are trying to merge these entities, so-called silos, slowly. And I think what COVID has taught us, and when I speak to a lot of the C-suite across in the region and in the West, what has happened is the organizations had to break those boundaries ASAP. In the sense, when the lockdown hit, it was the people were scattered, people were not allowed to merge, or people not allowed to come to offices, so they had to start working in a very different fashion. In that fashion, across these so-called silos, how are you able to collaborate? How are you able to innovate? How are you able to bring in new ideas at a very fast pace? And I'll give you a very simple example. Panera Bread, a very large chain of coffee shops all across US. And suddenly when the lockdown happened, they didn't have anything that most of the people didn't want. And what Panera Bread decided is that, well, we have the stores and we have people. How can we transform quickly? Well, that model may not be permanent, in which they said that now we'll start putting in grocery, and because that is what the need was. But the whole idea was for that large setup to be active in a time of such a big impact. And they were able to transform a large part of their staff towards delivery staff. They did a lot of work around creating grocery assortment, and they were able to do that to keep this business momentum going. It is not that they have to shun the old model of Panera which is there, but in that time, their ability to transform, at least for a short time, into this new model was something which is commendable. Similarly, Domino's pizzas, and taking an example from India, I think they started as a part of their offering, they started doing grocery delivery because a lot of their riders were sitting idle. Yeah, and these are the kind of examples in which lot of organizations were able to achieve this agility, whereas some organizations were not able to. And the reason is their decision making process, their ability to break the silos, their ability to innovate and try things in a distributed kind of a working environment are all being tested, tried and tested. And it is not that Domino's Pizzas will become a grocery delivery company, but what it showed Domino's Pizzas is that their ability to transform and bring in new features at the pace which they had never done in the past. It would have taken them months before rolling out such a large initiative, whereas this was done in weeks. And this is what organizations of the future are to be pivoted on. How can you be more agile to innovate yourself at a much faster pace than what you have been doing? Because what is happening is there are two kinds of forces which are playing. There is the startups which are coming up with a very different pace, and there are these large organizations which are going at a snail at a pace which is so slow, and it is very easy for some of these startups to kind of pass through them at a speed which I think these large organizations cannot believe or cannot move at. And I think that is where the difference lies, and organizations need to start working with this startup ecosystem to make sure that they are able to adopt some of this fast pace of working to transform themselves much better and faster.
That is amazing. In fact, the agility, the speed, the pivot, a dynamic pivot that you talk about sounds very much like a startup mindset. So would you say that something like this, a once in a century event, has it given a sort of a wake up call to a lot of too big to fail large organizations who have now learnt their lesson? And is this lesson a permanent one or a temporary one as far as this dynamism, this pivot, this agility encoded culture is concerned?
I think it is permanent in nature, and we will see this accelerate much faster because the kind of innovation that is happening in the startups phase is slowly going to kind of impact and challenge each and every part of this large organizations. And so what is needed for this large, it's not, I'm not kind of calling out a doomsday for all this large organization. They will always be there. And I'll give you a very simple example of what Walmart did. Yeah, Walmart has been a player, and even Tesco, both the organizations that I've worked in the past, is that Walmart was obviously a late entrant into the e-commerce space in the US, and in the last 1 year, the amount of innovation that they have brought in, the amount of focus that they have brought in into the entire last mile delivery and looking at new models of click and collect and so on and so forth. And I have, from what I had seen Walmart in the past and what I see in terms of new launches, they launched the Walmart Plus, they launched the new shopping and scan and go solution. They had a new click and collect offering. They had converted their parking lots into movie theaters. So amount of changes that you had seen in Walmart, and believe me, Walmart is like, I think it is 5th, 6th largest country in the world. Yeah, we're talking about that scale. For an organization of that scale to transform and constantly give new things in a matter of last 1 year, I think these are examples which need to be adopted by others. Whereas there are a lot of other organizations in the US who were not able to change that fast, and I think they are now struggling quite a lot. And so what is required by large enterprises is build that entrepreneur mindset. And while in the startup ecosystem they call it entrepreneur, these people are called intrapreneurs, which means that you need to build in that startup mindset, that agility, that innovative culture within our organizations, break the siloed ways of thinking, break the idea of becoming slow, and then transform the organizations towards something which is much more nimble.
That sounds very, very interesting. How about this transformation and the impact of the transformational technologies that are being talked about these days, especially in on the retail side? Actually, there is definitely AI, blockchain in the supply chain management, and XR on the on the front end of the retail. The use of XR. As someone who sits on the digital transformation discussions within not just your organization but in your past organizations, someone who has keenly been interested in startups and in artificial intelligence, where do you see the potential and impact of these deep tech technologies like AI, blockchain, and XR in the retail space in the coming decade? What do you see unfolding?
Well, I think these technologies are maturing, and obviously AI is no longer a choice. It is actually there in a lot of solutions which people already use. All the cloud hosting solutions that everybody uses has a lot of AI already embedded into it. A lot of mobile applications that you build today has a lot of AI. But the real power of AI will be when organizations are able to adapt almost each and every use case using some of those technologies. And AI as such is a horizontal technology, right? And how can you verticalize that? For example, now uh, uh, in future, my prediction is that by 2023 or 24, most of the transactions or most of the communications will be either through voice, video, or those kind of interactive mechanism or conversational commerce. And we will move away from this text-based interactions. Text-based interactions, the simple white and black listing pages will be a thing of past in a few years time, and that is happening at a much faster pace. Yeah, which means that there has to be a lot of these computer vision related technologies which needs to be democratized. There needs to be a lot of these NLP technologies which needs to be democratized, and each and every organizations will need to adapt those technologies. So it is like, do you have a mechanism by which you can aggregate data? Now, every organization in today's context has it. In by 2025, I'm pretty sure most of the organizations will have capability in terms of using voice, using video, and using a lot of conversation platforms. They will be able to stitch up use cases which will be much more interactive, and which is where VR AR technologies will come into play. And we are already seeing it happening, that people are kind of liking so-called VR stores, the virtual stores, and virtual stores are as a technology in retail is catching up fast. I've seen 3 or 4 startups in the US which are kind of working on this VR technology. I feel that in the next 2 years we'll see the prices of those come down drastically, and then every transaction that you see on the digital commerce space will be enabled through some of these VR AR platforms. So these is something which I think very, very pertinent. Only thing is, they will never be whitelisted solutions which you can buy, and that is where the differentiation comes. People need to think through what your customer segment is. People need to think through what your target audience is. Tailor the use case using some of these technologies that we're talking about, and not to say everything around AI and the related stuff has to be data driven. So make sure that your employees are having a lot of understanding of data. Make sure that your technology solutions are spinning out a lot of data and insights, so that you are able to deliver to these use cases, which will be delivered from this AI, AR, VR solutions.
Interesting. And Piyush, you mentioned data, and being from the retail space, one of the largest retail players today in the world, Amazon, builds its entire how would I say, empire through data. What How critical is the need for data lakes, data warehousing, single view of the customer, in specific for retail players who manage anywhere between hundreds of thousands to even millions of user data, almost personally and identifiable PII information, right? And how do you see that evolving in the context of the entire privacy movement that's happening the world over, where Google is pushing back, saying we won't track cookies, web cookies, and so on and so forth. There's a lot happening in this data space. What's your viewpoint as someone who looks at data within an organization where customer data is key? Because be it traditional commerce or digital commerce, data is what drives a lot of decision making, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. My views are like this. There is no second thought in saying that the data is going to be a key differentiator, and I've been kind of talking about this in a lot of my talks, is that retail companies will no longer be so-called retail companies, they will be customer data companies. Yeah, the differentiator will be who has how much of rich data about their customers. It is not the data about the products, it is the data of the customers which will be differentiated, and that becomes, as I use the term, this customer data is the new soil for retail companies. Yeah, which means that all your processes, and which is what maybe the advantage Amazon has, is that it has built all the ecosystem around this customer data. Yeah, and but I think the other retailers, the physical retailers, are catching up, be it through creating central data lakes, central data repository platforms, and so on and so forth, to kind of create use cases. So, for example, every offer that you do in the past was more around ATL campaigns, kind of doing mass marketing campaigns, and so on and so forth. And if you look at more futuristic organizations, they are already seeing that majority, more than 50-60% of their marketing budget is being spent on targeted campaigns, be it personalized campaigns or at least segmented campaigns, rather than having those large mass campaigns out there. And for an organizations to be really effective, almost 80 to 90% of the spend should be in this personalized communication space, and that can happen only when you have good amount of rich data which you are able to analyze, not as a rear view mirror, but analyze and act on it on a real time basis, which is what some organizations are still thinking, that okay, now I have to build data platforms, but data platform with the view of making it real time in usage, making it real time in action, so that you are able to communicate with the customer, because the customer today is a customer which wants instant gratification. It is no longer a case in which you say that I understood that customer and I will interact with that customer on that behavior 1 week or 1 month down the line. Customer is least bothered about that. The customer is bothered saying that, okay, I am in this moment, I want something, how can you personalize that offering to me at this moment? And that is the paradigm which a lot of the digital native companies are able to provide, and hence they are able to capture the customer much faster than the physical retail companies. The physical retailers are working towards building platforms by which they will be able to understand and analyze those interactions much more better digitally, and once they do that, they will be able to target and personalize the offers and other things much better.
You made a very key point here, which is real time. Uh, you worked across MNC retail players, across promoter and owner-owned retail players, each of them having millions of customer data offline stored or online stored, so as to say, having some amount of or a large amount of e-commerce engines. How far are these players, whether regional or global, in your view, from achieving that real-time aspect of customer data platform, so as to say, and being able to connect what we would term as marketing with advertising, and customer data right up to owned customer to future prospect acquired customer. How far are they from this holy grail of a real-time dashboard, which possibly today Amazon already has in its kitty, so as to say?
It would be difficult for me to predict how the whole industry is behaving, but I'm pretty sure that different players are at different levels. And from an evolution perspective, I'll kind of put them into three buckets. The first bucket is people who have at least all the customer touchpoint data, which is aggregated into one, which is the phase one. Yeah. Before you jump into the phase two, I think you need to have your touch points, your interactions sorted out. And it is not only just one transaction, but there are multiple touch points and interactions that you need to be aware of. That is a level one. Next is, are you able to put that customer interaction data in a more modern platform, be it which is cloud native, which is maybe digital native, and so on and so forth, so that you can democratize that data. Once you have that, which is the phase two, the third is how can you build on a lot of action on it using ML, AI, and stuff like that, which is predominantly interacting on the interaction. Yeah, how can you interact on the interaction that you have with the customer, which is the third phase. And to me, there are very few companies who are in this third phase. Majority of the companies are in the phase one, in which they at least now are able to collect data of the interactions. There are a few which are still running on legacy platforms, by which they are still not able to have that data platform democratized for a large part of the organization to use. And that transition is happening, which is the phase two. And I think very few. My prediction is that by 2024 or 25, majority of the companies have to be in phase three, otherwise they will kind of perish and die.
That is very interesting, and I believe you would agree that the last 12 months has given a massive push to this data democratization, and data strategy has become a core focus for a lot of companies, so as to say, including retail companies, so as to say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that these are things which people have been talking about. So making sure that your organization is data driven and data enabled, your organization is agile, your organization is innovative, your organization is customer centric. Now all these were things which people used to talk in the past, but now as part of COVID, the acceleration has become so fast that these things had to be adopted at a pace which was unheard and unseen in the previous times.
Very interesting. Finally, Piyush, this last question is more from the standpoint of the opportunities for startups. You've worked with them. You consider them to be big competitors to the large companies. But of course, there are certain things that large companies have at their disposal, which is resources and capital, which startups do not. Right. If there was one area, even if it's within the retail space, or one solution that you would want to see a startup come up with, that you would be willing to bet your money on, or so as to say, or let's say you had only $100,000 and you had to invest it in one idea, what would that area, problem solving solution, or aspect be that you can share with all the startup founders listening out there, who could learn from the pain point or from a opportunity or an idea that you have to share with them?
Well, this is like crystal gazing, but let me try and do that. One thing which I can surely bet on, and I am seeing that already happening, is the emergence of direct to consumer brands. That is point number one. And the direct to consumer brands interacting with the customer using conversational commerce platform. So if you combine these two things together, how can you be direct to consumer, and how can you use in conversation and not have the so-called text-based interaction? I think this merger, or this way of unifying customer experience would be something that I would bet a lot of opportunities on. It is already gaining a lot of traction. As I hear, there are funds which are created to support those D2C brands worldwide. There are platforms which are being built for D2C brands, and there is a lot of money which is being poured into the conversational commerce platform. So if these two things had to merge to create a unified experience to the consumer, why not? I think that is the big idea that I would put my money for.
That is fantastic. Piyush, I think you've been very generous with not just your views, but also sharing your predictions, your ideas on this podcast. I think there's a lot for not just colleagues and prospective CIOs, digital transformation enthusiasts, as well as CEOs of various large and startup companies to learn from this podcast, but also for budding entrepreneurs who would be involved in either retail or conversational commerce to see the ideas that you have shared, so as to say. So I thank you for your time, Piyush. This has been a fantastic conversation. I've had a great time. And thank you so much for being on Transformation Talks and sharing your views.
Thank you, Rajiv, for having me. I hope we'll be able to share some of the innovation ideas in the future as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Transformation Talks podcast hosted by Rajiv Dhingra, founder and CEO of RD&X Network. Tune in next week for another interesting episode.